I managed to save over £3,000 in just 2 months and went on a once-in-a-lifetime holiday to Thailand with my wife using that money. In my opinion, there's 2 things you need to do to save money fast. 1 is budgeting, and I'm going to share my spreadsheet for doing that. And 2 is earning extra money, and I'm going to show you my number 1 way of doing that as well. Hello, welcome to the Risk on Investor channel. My name's Chaz, and I'm on a journey from building a £0 to £1 million investment portfolio, and you can follow along too. So in this video, we're going to look at saving money fast so you can achieve whatever goals you have in mind, whether that be a nice holiday, whether that be buying a new car, saving for a house deposit, or even investing for your future. Probably the one that will move the needle the biggest out of these 2 methods is the earning extra money. And to be honest, it's such a simple, easy way that I like to earn extra money that I think you're crazy if you're not doing it. But before we get to that, I just want to hop on and talk about budgeting. Now, budgeting sounds boring. It sounds like you don't need to know about budgeting, but I think everyone should have a budget, no matter how much you earn or no matter how comfortable you are. If you aren't watching how you're spending money, you'll be spending money on things that you don't want to or don't even know that you're spending that much money on. So let's jump into my budgeting spreadsheet, which I'll show you how to get a copy of as well, and we'll run through the basics of budgeting to make sure that your finances are in order before you start earning extra money. That way, when you earn extra money, you know it's going to be spent well, saved well, or invested well. Let's hop onto the computer. So hopping on into my budgeting spreadsheet here, you'll see there's a number of tabs across the bottom that we'll work our way through. If you're just joining the spreadsheet, then you'll need to make a copy of it. So you can click File at the top and make a copy, and that will download it down to your Google Drive account, which means you can edit everything, tweak it, change it to your heart's desire. But this is a sort of template that you can use to help get started, and will clearly show how your budget's set out. So the first thing we're going to do in our budgeting is work out what our incomings are. So if we hop down to the income tab here, there's just a single box here where you could put in your take-home pay. So this might not be straightforward. If you're a salaried worker paid monthly, then it will literally just be a check your bank statement, put in the number that you regularly receive there, and away you go. If you work more shift work, or your hours change regularly, or you're paid per hour and it might vary quite a lot month to month, I'd recommend going through your last 3 months worth of income and just average it out, just so you get an idea. If you do have an unpredictable income, it is worth building in a bit of fat into your budget. So we won't be looking for having £0 left over at the end of the month. We'd be looking to have, maybe a couple of £100 or whatever you feel comfortable with on your budget. In the budgeting sheet, there's also a few questions as well. So if you do want to increase your income, are there any benefits you could be claiming? There's a link to a great website in there. There's also a link to a great place where I show you how I earn a bit of extra income every month. Just a few other general questions about your work, about whether you could pick up extra hours, or if there's clear career progression into the future, if you want to earn more in the future. Just a few things to think about for yourself. So the next tab that we need to look at is the Debts tab. I've not included mortgage debt or student loans in this tab. The reason being is that I've put mortgage or rent into the spending tab, into the what's known as the essentials column. So we'll see when we get to the spending tab, there's an essentials column there, just because that's your living accommodation is it is what it is. You just pay it down. You can overpay it, but it's not a debt in the same way that a credit card debt or a loan you might have taken out is. So this tab is just for any credit cards, loans, and the key thing we want to put in here is the minimum payments. So we need to make sure that in our budget there's definitely room for those minimum repayments for any loans that might be outstanding or any debt that you might have. So then we move across to the main tab, which is the spending tab. So now this is the real key tab, and where you need to be putting in information as accurately as you possibly can. When you're budgeting, it's best to be honest with yourself. There might be things that come up only every now and again. Maybe there's a big car expense that you might have to pay after an MOT or something like that, and it's worth trying to build in some kind of budget for that. So what you could do is, in your other category over here, you could put in car repairs, and you could put in I don't know, £25 a month. And that's then £25 a month you've put earmarked for future repairs that might come up, because you don't want your budget to be completely balanced with your outgoings matching your incomings, and then there be a sudden unexpected expense that you aren't ready for, and that means that you might have to take out debt to cover that cost. So you want to try and build in as many of those unknowns as you can into your spreadsheet. That's easier said than done, and so there will need to be a bit of wiggle room there. You're going to need to go through your bank statements and just see what you've had in the past that's come up, that may come up again, and that might help you estimate any expenses that you might have. I try to categorise my expenses into different subsections. So I've got the essentials. So this is things that I need for my day-to-day life that are really non-negotiable type things. And so while they might be non-negotiable type things, they might be expenses that you can change. So for example, food, you could eat out. You could eat cheaper, you could eat less meat, you could bulk cook. All these things might reduce your food costs, but you're still going to have a cost for food. And it's the same for maybe your utilities. You might be able to swap your tariff to get a cheaper rate than the one you're currently on, but you're still going to have some kind of cost there associated with those things. The important section is things that I really value and really things that really help me in my life. So for example, running a car, it makes it easier to get to work, get into town, to go to the shops, or go and see family that might be further away. So whilst it's not an essential thing for my job, it may be an essential for yours. You might need a car for your job. Walking or public transport might not be an option, or you might live fairly rurally and just a car is the only real practical way of getting around. But for me, I live on the outskirts of a city, so I've put it in the important section rather than an essential. There's then the subscriptions tab. So subscriptions can really add up, especially if you're subscribed to lots of things that you don't necessarily use. A common one is definitely sort of streaming services. So for example, with Spotify, do you really need to have no ads on your Spotify, or can you put up with the occasional ad to save yourself what's going to be best part of £100 a year? The same for Netflix, Disney Plus, all those kind of streaming services. Do you use them all? Do you only want to maybe pay for one for 6 months and then cancel your membership, or you pay for a different one for 6 months if you're running out of content to watch on one of them? And also, are there any subscriptions that you're paying month to month that you don't actually use anymore? Do you go to the gym enough to make it worth it, or is getting out to the park for a park run or going for walks regularly, is that going to be enough for your exercise that might mean you don't need that gym membership? There's then the future category. So this is probably the more exciting things. These are things you want to do, things you want to save for. So that could just be as simple as building up a bit of a cash buffer. Maybe you want to set aside £50 a month because you're trying to build up a little bit of money that you can have sitting in a pot. Alternatively, it might be that you're saving for a holiday or a new car or a deposit for your house. And so you could pop in this category £50, £100, whatever you want to save for your target. Say you need to save £1,200 for a holiday across the next year. Well, you know you need to be saving £100 a month in that case. So pop that in your future pot. And then there's the other category. So this could be, as we've said before, those random things that come up that you might only have to pay once in a year, or it might be things that you spend, but it varies a bit month to month. Could be eating out, that could be takeaways, all that kind of stuff. So once you've put all that in, you've got all your spending, you've got your income, it's time to see where you stand. So if you hop on over to your dashboard section, it will show you just a quick breakdown of how your spending works out with a nice little chart. It will show you percentages here. It's worth looking at those percentages. If you have a big selection of essentials, maybe you're living beyond your means, maybe your house, for example, is too expensive for the amount of money that you have coming in, and possibly you should be looking at moving. Again, if your essentials is low, that probably indicates you're fairly comfortable. Or if your essentials are low, but you're still spending more than you've got coming in, it probably means that there's a lot of unnecessary spending in your budget. The key headline number is this difference here. If it's a negative number, as it's shown in this just little example budget, then that's bad news. That means you're spending more than you've got coming in. And so you might need to go back and have a look at your spending habits and see, well, what can I trim out every month? Or how can I earn a little bit of extra money? If you think back to those things that are flagged up on the income tab. When I do my own budget, I like to have this as a positive number, and I like to have a little bit of fat on it. So I aim for sort of £50, £100 just free at the end of the month, just to pick up some of those unexpected expenses that you might not have accounted for. I would try and do that spending sheet as thoroughly as possible, but there's inevitably going to be the occasional thing that comes up that you might miss. So it's just nice having a little bit of a buffer there. That's the summary of the budgeting spreadsheet that I use for my finances. You can grab a copy of this spreadsheet down in the description of this video. It's completely free, and hopefully it will help you as much as it's helped me. It's quite simple, it's quite bare bones, but that's what you need when you're budgeting. You don't want to overcomplicate it, you just want to make sure all the facts are there, all the numbers are correct, and from there you can make your decisions going forward. So you can download a copy of that spreadsheet with the link in the description. It's completely free to use. I really hope you find it helpful and useful for your budgeting. So on to part 2, making some extra money. Sometimes you find yourself in a tight spot and you just do with a little bit of extra money. And that might be because you haven't been able to build up an emergency fund where you keep some money on hand for those sudden expenses that can come up in life. It might just be that you want to save for a really nice holiday in 6 months' time, but you're not going to have enough money in your budget to save for that. Now, you may have seen videos on YouTube with people claiming that they can show you how to make £10,000 extra a month with no effort. I can tell you, having tried loads of those videos, that they aren't low effort. You're usually building a whole business. And that's not what I wanted when I want to earn some extra money. I wanted a tap that I can turn on and off by spending a bit of time and get money back. So if you're looking to start a business, this isn't for you. But if you just want some extra cash, this is perfect for you. It's called matched betting. Now, the name might put you off a little bit. You might not want to gamble, you might not be into that kind of thing, and I'm not, to be honest. But the beauty of matched betting is that it isn't gambling at all. You have maths on your side. So sometimes you'll be placing a bet where you know you've got a guaranteed profit, and other times you'll be placing a bet with what's known as an expected value. That means if you were to place that bet 100 times, you would expect to make money. What I like about it the most, though, is that it's completely tax-free. Here in the UK, gambling isn't taxed. So even though we're not risking money, because we're not gambling as such, it's guaranteed money, because it's tax-free, we get to keep everything that we earn. And that makes it really efficient with your time. I can easily earn £40 or £50 an hour by doing match betting. Now, all the ins and outs of match betting are beyond the scope of this video. It will take a little bit too long to explain. So what I've done is I've put together a separate video, which again I'll link to in the description, where you can find out how you can get started today, and most people will earn their first bit of money in the day that they get started. So thanks very much for watching. I really hope that you find the budgeting spreadsheet useful, and I really hope that the match betting works out really well for you, and that there's lots of great tax-free income there. Maybe with some of that income, you can invest it to earn even more money, and that's what this channel here is about growing your wealth long-term, not just short-term earnings. So if that's something that interests you, hit the subscribe button below, and we'll see you in more videos.